Today I'd like to talk about a little improvisation made for sailing, and it's called a gimbal. For those that are unaware of what a gimbal is, it's a system for mounting a camera on board a sailboat in order to compensate for the movement of the boat. So very briefly, what I have here is a handle, a piece of elbow from a plumbing supply shop, a yoke, a shaft here which has the camera mount at the top, and a lead weight for the bottom. My object in making this gimbal was to make it as cheaply as possible and from things, objects that I had lying around the place as cheaply as possible. And total cost, because I did recycle most of the equipment, would be under $10. Basically I have a wooden handle here which I modelled on one of the handles of my kids' toy guns, a piece of broomstick which has been Sikaflexed onto the handle, high pressure hose, a high pressure plumbing fitting I should say, with a bearing forced inside. This piece of plumbing pipe here was heated in the oven for a short time so that it would become softer. I then forced the bearing inside the tubing here to make it the correct size. The bearing itself is fixed to the inside of the yoke by a 5/16 Whitworth stainless steel bolt. Passes through the yoke, through the bearing, as you can see, and it's secured at the other end by a nylock nut. I've used nylock fittings throughout the gimbal here so that should there be any vibration movement that they won't so they won't undo and fall to pieces at sea, obviously. One of the things I did to secure the bearing inside here was to use a bit of Sikaflex. The same sort of Sikaflex I used to fit this wooden dowel to the handle itself. The piece of aluminium I used for the yoke is something I got from a scrapyard, approximately 3mm thick by about 35mm wide. It has 2¼ inch holes drilled at the end, through which I've used a 1/4 inch screw there. Again, nylock nut fittings, and you'll see here that the shaft is actually offset from the yoke itself. The reason that I did that was with my camera that mounts on top, it has a viewfinder which opens to one side, and that just helps compensate for any difference in the balance there. The main balance shaft here, again, I used a piece of brass or rod that I found. It's something I had on hand for no other reason than that. You can use whatever you want. You can use aluminium, steel. Again, the material I need also has to have a degree of weather resistance. At either end of the rod, I drilled a hole and then tapped a 1/4 inch Whitworth thread in, which is the same size thread that's used on cameras. I found a little nut from a radio, I think it was, a radio mounting bracket, and that fits on there too. So when I screw the camera on top, I can adjust the nut so that it sits up nice and tight in the bottom. Again, the bottom here I have a counterweight made of lead. Don't tell my wife. I actually heated up some old scrap lead on the stove, made a mould in the sand, poured the molten lead into the mould, and then before the lead went hard, inserted a stainless steel bolt in there, again a 1/4 inch stainless steel bolt. It was a little bit hit and miss. We tried all sorts of weights, tried heavy weights, light weights, and for the time being this particular weight here seems to be the best one. The beauty of this particular gimbal is that although I can hand hold it with this here, I've got provision where I can put a piece of tubing and some clamps that I could get from a marine chandlery, and I can mount it on the back of the boat. So it'll be mounted something like this, so as the boat moves up and down through the waves or from side to side, there is a counterbalance here to hold in the correct position. So should it swing, it seems to correct itself fairly quickly and eliminate a lot of camera movement. So, you know, there are two options there, whether we want to have a gimbal that will keep the horizon on that parallel plane and have the boat tilted at an angle, or we can go the other way and have it fixed to the boat, whereby the boat and the subject on the boat is always upright. However, you have this moving horizon, like so. So we'll experiment a bit and see which way to go. But I'm hoping that using a gimbal like so, we can portray a more realistic picture of life aboard a boat. So stay tuned for upcoming movies, and I put it on the web from time to time.